Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today we'll be doing the mechanical overhaul of the E28. So sit back, enjoy the video, and it's a long one, so stay tuned. Alright, a bit of a time gap. I wasn't able to record when I took the valve cover off and stuff, but it was definitely a pain because these hoses, if they were normal hoses, it would be an easy job, you know? Just move the hoses out of the way and such. These hoses are so brittle that the hose that connects from the breather to the throttle body, it was not moving. It was not moving. I mean, like, you hear that when that one fell? Hoses should not sound like that. So yeah, just lets me know that I have to replace all of these vacuum lines. So there's more work for me, but it's worth it. But yeah, took the valve cover off, painted it. I have it over here chilling in this oven. It's not on, but yeah, that's how it looks. And if you guys want to know how to do that finish, I'm going to be doing the same finish on the intake manifold. So once I get this intake manifold off, I'm going to clean it up and get ready to paint it wrinkle black. Alright, so as you can see, the intake manifold is finally off. The fuel rails in there and everything. This is the thermostat housing, or well, the main thermostat housing. There's two pieces to it. So to get this thing off, it's quite the process. Obviously you have your hardware down here, but you also have this wiring harness, and this harness goes through the intake manifold. So you have to unplug everything. These are all for the injectors. This is the 5th injector, ICV, all that. More injectors. This is for the cooling stuff in the front on the thermostat housing. Then you have these two wires that go onto the coil, and then a sensor that goes down by the engine somewhere there. Don't know what it does, but it goes down there. You have to disconnect the fuel line that goes to the fuel rail. You have to disconnect the whole bunch of other lines. Like this is another fuel line for the fuel pressure regulator. You have these coolant hoses that went to the throttle body, and again all these coolant hoses that went to this thermostat housing. Then you'll have the, I guess it's a oil drain tube that connects down there into the block. You'll just push down on it and it'll pop out of the intake manifold, this tube right here. So it's just like a press fit. So it'll be in the block like this. You just have to push it down harder so this O-ring can slip out of the intake manifold from right there. And yeah, if you're using 12-point sockets, you need a regular socket for the one that's right here. This one's a bit hard to get to. It's a very clear and open spot, but it's real close to the intake runner, so you need a regular socket. The 12 points are too big, so you need a skinnier, regular 5-point socket for that. And yeah, you need to fish the whole harness through the intake manifold, which is pretty annoying. On the late models, they just put a disconnect right here, so this whole harness would go with the intake manifold. But that's how it is when you work on the early cars. So I think that covered everything. And there's also that ground and power for this diagnostic port that comes off. There's a few brackets also that connect these lines to the intake manifold. But yeah, I think that covers everything. It's not the most fun job. I can take the intake manifold off my M57 in like 10 minutes. I'm here on the second day, so I probably have a good amount of hours into this, but it's off. So I can start cleaning this and getting it prepped for wrinkle black and get these injectors out and get them prepped for a rebuild. So that'll be the next part of this video. intake manifold is painted, as you can see, in wrinkle black. It's starting to wrinkle up here on its own, so god. Alright, so I got the intake manifold here hanging, and I just painted it with some wrinkle black, as you saw, and it's already starting to wrinkle by itself. So I'm gonna let it sit here for an hour, and then if it doesn't wrinkle, then I'm gonna use some heat to persuade the wrinkling so that it can look like the valve cover and match. Probably can't see that well. So that's the wrinkling on the valve cover. What you do to get this paint to properly apply, you're gonna shoot like this first, one coat, and then like this, a coat, and then diagonally a coat. It just ensures you get proper coverage and so that the wrinkling has the proper effect. As you can see, it's already starting. So I'm gonna let it sit here for a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna heat it up so it finishes drying and wrinkling, and then peel off the masking and start worrying about this guy here. Alright, as you can see, deep into the timing belt job. I'm not going to bore you with everything. I'll just give you a quick overview. There's a bolt here for the radiator. Obviously take the hoses off. It'll lift up out of those rubber grommets. It might be a little stuck, but it'll come out. Then you have the belts to take off. So you got to loosen up all these components. It's a bit annoying. I just took the bolt off of here, took the bolts off of that. This one, the adjustment ended up stripping out, so I have to order a new bracket and bolt. A very big pain. Once you get those off, actually before you take the belts off, loosen up the bolts for the water pump pulley. Trust me, just do it. And then yeah, those will be loose. So once you get the belts off, you can take the water pump pulley off, and then with the pulley off, you can have access to these 3 bolts for the water pump, and then take the water pump off over. Take this tensioner off. Also, make sure to get this crank hub off. You can counterhold the crank with a 22, as you can see. And then you get these bolts off. I think they're 13s or 12s. There's 6 of them, whatever size they are. They come off. And then, again, while the timing belt is still on, you're gonna use this size, what is it? A T50 Torx to loosen up this bolt. You're gonna use a 15 mil to loosen up this one, and just make sure that the stuff doesn't move. This one can spin. This one's just for the oil pump, but this one's attached to the cam, so you really do not want this one to spin, because once you get the belt off, it's gonna be very hard to counterhold that. So again, hold the crank, and then what I did, I got this hand Torx, and then I put this extension over it so I can have more leverage, and then I held the crank with one hand and then rotated with the other, got that loose. Same thing with this pretty much. And then we got the belt off, and now you can see she is just oily everywhere. So I'm gonna have to get this cleaned up thoroughly, because you can see the head that I cleaned up, and then the front of the engine is just absolutely disgusting. So we're gonna get that situated, and then we're gonna work on getting that situation off, because I want to replace the seals behind this, which is gonna be fun. Just kidding, it's not gonna be very fun at all, but that's the way it goes. So yeah, I'll update you guys whenever I get this cleaned off and some of those things off. Alright, so to refinish these brackets, I'm gonna put them in the vise and then just clean them up with a wire brush. I don't have a parts cleaner or anything, so this will just have to be the way that it is. So let me get this set up here. So now that that's done, you have a bracket that looks like this, which, you know, isn't perfect, but it's better than what it was. And now for brackets, you will follow me for the next part. For bolts and hardware, I just clean them up with the vise, and yeah, that's about it, unless I get replacements. So for brackets, you will now follow me to the next part. All right, now we're at the next part. We're in my professional paint booth, as you can see, and the bracket goes there, and then I'm going to be using this paint. It's high temp and fast drying, so it works good. I'll be using it for a bunch of other brackets, and I'll show you the before and after for the rest of the brackets once I'm finished with this one. Just like that, brand new metal. Just kidding, but yeah, that's all it takes really. So I'll skip through the rest of the brackets and just show you some before and afters. So yeah. All right, so quick interruption. I'm going to put the new spark plugs in, and as you can see, there's something different there. So it's very simple to do. You just hold the spark plug, get a plier, and then unscrew that tip off. And there you go. So I'm gonna do this to the rest of them, and then we'll be ready to install. All right, so what I was saying was you want to get this gap to be like this right here. If you have too much slop here, the belt will be resting on this cover, and that's how you'll know right away. So there has to be a gap here. It'll probably be less than this because it won't be fully tensioned, but it cannot be resting on the cover. It has to be fully on there, and as you can see, it's tight here, but loose here, and loose here. Because this is the amount of like tension you have. Before, when I didn't have this tensioned right, I was able to like touch the belt here, and right now I can't. So that's how you know you've got it on right. And then you take the spark plugs out, and it's a good time to replace them. And what you want to do is just rotate the engine twice. It goes easily. That's once. And we're approaching the second time, so it's lined up here again, and it's lined up there. So that's how you know you've done it good. The other thing, some people have noted that you want this continental facing the inside. I don't know what the reasoning is, but that's what people say. And yeah, so now we can start putting more stuff back on the engine. Alright, so we got it outside. I got this foam trim off. I just used that hand wire brush that I have. Peeled it off mostly by hand and then used the brush to get the rest of it off, and it did pretty well actually. I'll be ordering a new one whenever I start working again. It's just $70 on FCP, so I'll be ordering that. But yeah, just use this vinyl and fabric spray. And I started this corner, you can already see a little difference there, so I'll do the rest of this and then we'll bring it inside so you can see the actual difference. But here it is now. And then I'll check in with you guys in like 20 minutes. Alright, and here's the engine with the plug wires back on, vacuum lines, intake manifold, intake boot, the belts, pretty much all the main components except for the cooling system. I think this is where the video will end off because it's already plenty long enough. And in the next video, we will see if it starts, how it starts, and spoiler alert, there will be plenty more content in the next video because I will face some more issues getting this thing back on the road. So stay tuned and yeah, catch me in the next video for the rest of this series.